All right, now let's talk about this basic components in Java programming. So for today, we will try to focus on JButton, JText field, and JLabel, which is not really new to everyone since na-discuss ko na siya totally just earlier in last meeting. So for the J button, we already know how to create a button, okay, set its size, pero hindi pa to, di ba? Hindi pa natin alam mag-set ng size, the font, the color, and the image. So for today, we will try to do that, okay, using the following codes na meron tayo. Now, JButton class is used to create a label button that has a platform-independent implementation, and the application result in some action when the button is pushed. So let's take a look at this example here in which we have simply created a very simple button. Kumbaga, as is, di ba? So, JButton, JB, this time, is equal to new JButton. Click me. Tapos yung lalagay natin yan dito sa set layout, new flow layout. Gamit tayo yung flow layout. Tapos, lagay natin yan dito directly sa frame. Now, I think you have noticed something. Tapusin ko lang yung code. Keyframe.exit and close. Frame.set size. Frame.set visible. Okay, I think you have noticed something, no? Hindi na tayo gumawa ng JPanel. Diba? Hindi na tayo gumawa ng JPanel, but instead, we directly added the button inside our frame, which is possible. Okay? Also, ito yung nag-set na rin tayo ng layout dun sa frame natin instead na sa panel, which is of course possible pa rin. So, tingnan natin. It's okay, Mr. Benaventura. Okay? Nandito ka pa rin naman. Akala ko nag-offline ka na eh. Yan. So, initially, we have here the size, or I mean, the size of the J-frame. So, if you're wondering, yes po, possible po na hindi na tayo mag-create ng panel. Ang purpose lang naman kasi ng panel is basically you have here the entire window or the frame. Purpose lang ng panel is para maglagay ka ulit ng panibagong basically panel inside the frame. Pero kung gusto mo namang ilagay si button or other components directly into your frame, possible din yun. Pero ako kasi personally, I prefer having a panel para hindi ako nalilito. Kasi later on, kung gagawa ka ng program, meron akong set panel 1 dito which actually includes the login, for example. I have here the panel 2 which simply includes yung result, for example, para hindi ako malito. Yun yung purpose ko kung bakit ako naglalagay ng mga panels. Diba? So, pero kung tamad kayong gumawa ng ganun, okay lang ding diretso. Now, let's try to add a specific size of the button. So we have here JB that set preferred size, and this time we will try to use the dimension class 150 by 40 na height. Lakihan ko nga to, 300 by 200. Ayun. So pansin nyo, lumaki, di ba? Lumaki na yung value nito. Gawin natin tong 300. Ayun, 'di ba? Pag 300, same size ng frame, ganun na rin siya. Now, let's try to add a font size. Ito na yung sinasabi ko kanina. So, possible tayo maglagay ng set font, okay? Equals to new font. Halimbawa, gagamit tayo ng chiller. So, yung mga fonts na to, ito yung mga font na nakalagay dito sa PC nyo. So, if you want to add a custom fonts, let's try that later on, after nito, ha? Font, let's set its, into italic. Tapos yung size. Yung chiller font, alam na naman natin ganyan na itsura. 'Di ba? Lakihan ko nga to. Gawin ko pang 500 or 800 by 600 na lang para makita natin totally. 600. Tapos, the width and height is something like that. Ito, instead na italic, font that bold naman. Ayun. So, napansin nyo ha, we used this font here kasi yan yung nasa loob. So, pwede nating makita yung mga font natin dito sa mismong Windows, yung mga available natin na fonts. Say, for example, I would like to use Algerian. Ito. Ito nakikita natin. Algerian. Algerian. Tingnan nga natin. Yes, possible. Diba? So, nakikita nyo dito, I used a font na built-in dito sa mismong PC natin. Possible siya. Sir, let's try to add or use some fonts na downloaded from the internet. Like for example, let's download Naruto font. Ito. Try natin mag-download nitong Naruto font na to. Tingnan natin kung effective siya. So, extract ko. Let's add this font here. And we should be able to see that Naruto font dito. Ninja, no? Ayun. So, andito na siya. So, the name of the font is Ninja Naruto. Yan. So, tingnan natin. The name of this one should be the same kapag ilalagay mo dito. So, Ninja space Naruto. Napaka-importante po yan. Okay? Nagbago ba? Nasave ko ba? Ayun, nasave ko nga. So, pansin nyo, no? Nag-iba yung font natin. Palitan ko tong font that bold natin into yung regular lang. Plain lang. Ito. Tapos ito, palitan ko ng dot tibayo. Palitan ko rin yung size niya into 100. So yes, it's possible for us to use custom fonts in Java programming. Ayun. Hindi lang makita yung dot tibayo, masyadong malaki. 50. Yun. Diba? So, pwede na. Even if nag-download ka pa ng mga other fonts like Harry Potter fonts. Ayan. Mga Harry Potter na fonts. Yes, pwede nyo rin po itong gamitin. Subukan natin. Harry Potter. Let's try to install that. Harry P. Pangalan. Let's try to see kung nandito siya. Harry P. Ayun. So, the name of the font is Harry P. Harry P. Ayun. Pansin nyo, nag-iba rin yung font. Diba? So, naging Harry Potter itsura ng font natin. So, we can change we can use custom fonts here in Java programming. And so, we can change that into italic, bold, or, just simply plain. Ito, pwede nyo rin baguhin yung color ng font. jb.set background to color.yellow. Oops, small dapat pala to. Color.yellow. Yan. So, possible siya. Diba kanina ang default natin is blue? So, every time we are clicking that, ayun na siya. We can also change the button image. So, kung napansin nyo, it's also possible for us to set the button image. Pero this time, we will be using a certain path class, path kung saan natin ilalagay yung button na yon. So, subukan natin. Tingnan natin kung paano natin siya i-implement. Pero first of all, let's try to look for some button examples. PNG. Bawa ito or yung iba naman. Ito. Marami pala tayong pwedeng ma-download na ano dito eh, no? Ng mga button. Ito. Subukan natin to. Ano ba yan? Ayun. So, nandito na siya. Ayan. Let me copy. So, we just have to copy its path kung saan siya nakasave. E-downloads. So, ito button. Ano ba to? PNG. Okay. So, e-downloads PNG. Alright. So, let's try to use that. JFrame. Tapos yung text natin to. New JButton. Palitan natin dito. New JButton. New image icon. Or image icon. Then, let's place the path kung saan siya nakasave. In my case, it is saved in e-downloads. Dapat pareho eh. E-downloads, no? Yan, tama. E-downloads. Tapos yung pangalan ng file natin, which is button.png. Button.png. Yan. So, we also have here a size. Sige, 150 by 40. Tanggalin ko muna to. Layout, okay. And let's try to see what will happen kapag nilagay natin. Ayun. So, eventually, yes, possible din po na maglagay ng custom button pero hindi nakikita because the size or the dimension of this is, let's see the dimension of this, 800 by 407 pixels. So, kung dapat, yung size nito is the same, 800 by 407 pixels. Let's try to change the size of the frame 2080 by 720. Let's run that. Para makita natin to totally. Ayun. So, ang pwede nyo gawin dito, di ba may Photoshop kayo, you know how to use Photoshop or other editing tools, pwede kayo mismo ang gumawa. Di ba, ito, da-download nyo to, no? So, pwede kayo mismo ang gumawa nito na mga design ng button nyo. Pwede nyo rin siyang i-resize. Tapos, kayong bahala. You have the power to edit everything pagdating dito. Now, let's try to make that button work. So, kapag pinindot natin yan, it will produce an output which is a dialog box. Kagaya nga ng sinasabi ko kanina. Okay. Now, we have here what we call, this is only an introduction to what we call button listeners or yung mga yan, action event and event listeners na tinatawag natin. So, let me show you how to use it ng mabilisan muna para at least mapagana na natin yung mga button natin kasi lahat ng buttons natin unclickable pa eh. Diba? So, let's try to create here. Click me. Then, this time, meron tayong i-import na panibago which is yung event, java.out.event, action event, and the one that will listen to that particular event is, of course, action listener. Napaka-importante itong dalawang to ha. Kailangan natin siyang magamit kapag gumagawa tayo ng program na may clickable na siya, kumbaga. So, below the J button here, dito na nga lang ako. Ayan. Oops. And below that is where we will add here, add action listener. So, meaning once we click that, new action, oops, Grabe na. New action listener. So, once we click on this one, ano mangyayari? It will now perform an action, action performed, action event E. Tapos sa loob nito is ang J option pane that show message dialog. Hello world. Yan. Okay, so let's run that. Click. Ayun. Ba? Once we have clicked the button here, a message dialog appeared. Click. There you go. So, pwedeng gawin nyo dito, once you click this button, a new JFrame will appear. Possible din yon. Kumbaga, panibagong JFrame ang mag-appear. Ano mangyayari doon? So, instead of putting a show message dialog here, you can actually call here another JFrame na method na nandito somewhere sa baba ng code ninyo. So, possible yan. Ba? So, again, we only added the action event and action listener. This is only an introduction, ha? Tapos, using that J button, we added an action listener. So, meaning we are giving our program or our button its functionality na kapag pinindot mo siya, it will now perform a certain event or action event, which is, ito, magpe-perform na yan. I hope na-gets natin yun. Diba? At least napapaganan natin. So, every button pala na gagamitin or gagawin natin, maglalagay tayo ng ganyan. Okay? So, I think okay na tayo sa button. Oh, ito, madali na naman to eh. Punta na tayo dito sa text field. Malapit na rin tayong patapos. So, punta tayo ngayon dito sa text field. So, like button, this is actually how you will try to create a text field. So, JT, new JText field. Let's try to add JT dito directly sa frame natin. So, we can also set the size of that particular text field. Yan. So, kagaya na kanina, baga, parang same na same din. Diba? Ng 150 by 28. So, kapag kanira natin yan, magpapakita tayo yung text field na panibago. Ayun. Diba? Diyan na kayo pwedeng mag-type ngayon na kung ano-ano. So, once you actually entered or click a button here below, yan, panibagong program yon, button here below, pwede nyo nang makuha yung value ng text field, which will be discussed sa mga iba pang discussion natin. We can also set, again, the font. Yan. So, parang yung kanina lang din. Courier new. Font that bold. The size. Oops. Error yan. Dapat BOLD. Ganyan. Ayan. So, pwede nyo ring baguhin yung itsura ng font sa loob ng tinatype nyo dito. You can also, set its text field. Okay. So, jt.setBackground equals pink. Pink talaga yun. Ayan. So, pwedeng pink. You can also set a default text doon sa loob ng text field natin. Like for example, ito. Enter your name. Possible yan. Set text. Yun. So, possible yan. Lakihan ko nga yung ano na ito. Gawin kong 300 by 50. Ayun. Diba? So, pwede oh. Oh. Ayan. You can also make the text uneditable by simply using set enabled into false. Ibig sabihin kasi ng uneditable, ginagamit to usually sa mga database eh. Kapag ka, 'di ba, pag pinipindot yung button, usually may mga part dito na ayaw nyong ipagalaw doon sa user. So kapag ka nag-click kayo ng button, mag-extract yung values ng halimbawa ID number, name, ganyan-ganyan. So possible din yun. Yan. Text color, okay na rin pala to eh. Wala na tayong problema. Yan. So that is only the text field. Napakadali, di ba? Ng text field. Now, for the JLabel, basically it's a text, okay? Just like JButtons earlier na ginagawa natin in which we can set its size, we can also font, change its font, and the color, possible din po yun sa JLabel. So we have the following codes here in which basically will, change the look and feel of your text. Okay. Now, for this part of the module, asan yun dito? Hindi ko kasi nilagay eh. Pero, dito kasi sa part ng module natin, there is actually this Javaswing Calculator which I will discuss further on the next meeting. So, dito sa next meeting natin or a separate discussion, I will discuss how to create a very basic and a very simple Javaswing na calculator. Hindi siya calculator na parang nakikita nyo dito. Pero, if you want to create this one later on, it's really possible. Yan, no? So, kung nakikita nyo itong calculator dito, it uses grid bag layout. Pwede rin grid layout. Diba? So, possible na yan. Okay, so there will be another or separate topic on this one. Now, for your activity, dito po sa module natin, let's try to see. Okay? Now, you have to create here a JavaScript program based on the given images below. So, meron ka na ditong, yan, meron kang different panels. Ayan. So, you have here the, i-zoom in natin para makita. You have here a panel. Yan, left, middle, and right. Tapos may pinaka-panel ka pa. Main panel ka pa. Root panel, left panel, middle panel, and right panel. So this is actually 57 points. Masyadong malaki. Pero you have the following scoring mechanics na kailangan nyo sundan. So everything was discussed so far. Pero ito walang button ito eh. Dito yung may button. So ito JLabel lang siya. JPanel, and Layout Manager. So you have to think of a Layout Manager na gagamitin para dito. Napansin ko rin po na meron kayong isa o dalawang kaklase na source ng code. Pinagbigyan ko ng midterm pero this finals hindi na po pwede.